Shalom, family. How y'all doing today? This is Yakoba. If I sound okay, say yes. Y'all hear me okay, family? All right, all right. So I'm gonna start off today. I'm gonna show a few videos, and I'm gonna start adding some of the brethren and sisters who are coming in, and we're gonna discuss, the things that are happening, the prophecies that is coming to pass, and we're gonna get into that deep discussion. So, as you all know, we've been having awakenings all throughout the community, but very few of what we call our famous brethren have been vocal. Now they're starting to be a little vocal. Okay. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves, is what is required of them from the Most High? That's the question. Is the fact that they dip in and dip out and say, hey, I'm an Israelite, or acknowledge our existence. Is that good enough? What does God require of each and every one of us? So we'll get into this and have a discussion. And after we look at a few of these videos, I'll start bringing people on and we'll start having a discussion about it. But let's start off first sharing a video. Oops. Let me start there.
Said 400 years was it said people would be in bondage in the country that you would be strangers in for 400 years, and this is 401. 1619. That's when slavery started. 1619. So here we are in 2020 and all this going on. I happen to be like, I feel like this is ordained, what I mean? I think it's the fulfillment of a prophecy. And everybody's saying, yo, we're at war and we're unprepared. We don't have the ammunition. We don't have the preparation. We don't have the strategy. We don't have the leadership. We don't have the, hey, bro, God only gonna fight with one of us. God will only fight with one side of this. And if it's and if he fight with us, and guess what? That's all the we need.
Did that come across fine? Were y'all able to hear that? If you were able to hear that, say yes. We were able to hear it. Okay, great. I like Tip. Tip be straight up about it. I like people who are who they are, right? They try not to compromise. So let's continue this. We're gonna share a little more, and then we're gonna start bringing people in. We're gonna start discussing it.
To it. This is something that we wrote on this end. I think it'll speak for itself. Change, the type of lasting change that we as a people desire, will not come from outside sources until it has taken root and has been birthed from within each and every one of us first. By that we mean that yes, there are clearly laws in place that need to be amended, oppressive systems that need to be disrupted, racial double standards that must be uprooted, racist cops that need to be exposed, removed, and charged accordingly, media propagated motives that can no longer be given access into our homes and mindsets at the cost of our dollars. We are beyond tired, enraged, and unwilling to accept any more excuses regarding equality, which is ordained by God and cannot be delegated and rationed out by any man. Inside of a nation that was built on our backs, our creativity, and only repaid with unjustified bloodshed. And while our country is once again facing unrest and social turbulence, we also cannot allow this opportunity to pass without shedding more light on these current events and address the unspoken hard truth that some seem unwilling to address on their platforms. Our covenant with our Heavenly Father was established when He empowered us Black people with the name Israel and labeled us as His peculiar people. And the etymology of peculiar means belonging exclusively to one being, special and particular. And He also laid out the blessings and curses that we can expect if we chose to disobey His commandments. While we are hurting, exhausted, and boiling with emotion, we must also understand that our opposition not only knows our true identity, but have also become masters of our weaknesses and intentionally structure systems to entangle us in sin, which is the only force on this earth that can prevent us from operating in our true power. Sadly, they seem to know more about us than we do ourselves at times. So in no way are we aiming to divert the much needed and overdue attention away from the situation at hand with these unarmed killings. And we fully stand with all of the families of those who have been slain and the protesters around the globe who, like us, are frustrated, angry, and tired of not only the unjustified killings, but also the slow response in arresting and convicting those responsible. What is violently taking place with every one of these senseless killings of our brothers and sisters is madness and completely evil. However, because we only seem to unite at this level of magnitude when we are being killed by someone outside of our own race, we must take advantage of this because we may not have another great opportunity such as this to address certain points. And in closing, after justice has been served for the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, David McAddy, Ahmaud Arbery, and the countless others who will never be forgotten, we as a people still face an even greater obstacle to overcome, and that's facing how we unite once again toward the mission of loving ourselves and each other. So I know she touched on it at the top of it. I know you're heavy. But how do you feel when you look out, when you see the posts, you listen to the news, talk to friends and family, being a woman, being a mother, having lost a nephew? How was this hit you?
I'm just lost for words because it's almost like I want to say we shouldn't do this and we shouldn't do that and we shouldn't do certain things, but we're angry and we ain't used to this. Even though racism has been around, we're not used to this. We wasn't raised up. We didn't see that.
Right.
So we want answers. Matter of fact, excuse my language. Fuck answers. We don't want answers. We want change. Excuse my language, but that's how I mean it like that. Like, we don't want no answers. We want change. We want to be treated like we're supposed to be treated. But because now I've educated myself and I understand who I am biblically, like spiritually, the true Israelite, I'm not sure if change is ever going to come on that end. So now my thing is I'm pleading that change will come amongst us, amongst God's chosen one. I had somebody come up on my page the other day and was like, and I never read my comments, but since all this has been going on, I kind of read because sometimes I have other celebrities or other people hit me in DMs and stuff I normally don't check to ask me to be a part of stuff or just checking up on me, and we're checking up on each other. And so I saw the person say, we're all God's children. And yeah, we are. But he has his 12 tribe, his chosen one. And I know who I am. And that's what I was talking about. And so in order to know what I was talking about, you got to study that to show thyself. You got to study. We got to get in the book. We cannot depend on the law of the land. We cannot depend on the government. We cannot depend on certain things. We got to depend on the book. What's the book? That's the word. That's the Bible. That's my little 2 cents.
And we're going to do one more, family, and then we're going to have a discussion on this.
Bishopville, we got King Street, we got family out there. Already, I was just wanting to talk real scripture, man. We really chosen out here. Let's go. Talk to me. Talk to the people. Talk to me. Okay, man. This go deep. It's deeper than Black Lives Matter. It's deeper than marching. It's real scripture. We chosen from Puerto Rico to DR to America to the Bahamas. The boat didn't just stop in America. The boat went everywhere.
Absolutely, it was different stops. It was different stops for sure.
The scriptures is real. Deuteronomy 28. And if don't nobody know, whoever watching, the 12 chosen tribes, that's who we are. The scriptures. If you ain't never read the scripture in your life, I know they told you the other people wrote the book or wrote the Bible was translated, but King James is one of us. We all chosen. It's 1,200. It's 144 elite.
Talk to him.
We all gotta wake up. And if who that have an ear, let them hear. That's what it say. Who that ever have an ear, let them hear. We chosen people. We gotta wake up. The ignorance, everything that go on in this world, it come out the strength of us. We broke the first covenant. Our people did, but we also gotta be the people that bring it back and bring it back together.
So what you want people to know? What you want people to know from this?
I want everybody to know that it's more than 10 commandments. It's 160 laws that we got to keep as a people. Eat right, treat your brother right.
Talk to him.
Brother right, and you fight the enemy with how the enemy fights you. The book is our book. The King James Version Bible is our history.
1,000%. Talk to us. I love it. Keep going.
Puerto Rican, whether you Colombian, the meat shall inherit the earth.
All right, family. Let's get this started. Hey, brother Hebrew me. Hey, sister Sheila. How y'all doing?
All right.
I'm good.
Brother Calvin, Big Six. If you want to be added, you have to make sure your device is enabled where you can talk. Otherwise, I won't be able to add you. So, family, what do you all think about this? What do you think about this awakening? I mean, it's amazing to me that as we have said, it's going to increase. The awakening is going to increase, right? And we're seeing that. Okay, I didn't even post some of the other famous people that we know of who have come out saying that they're Israel, like Nick Cannon and Professor Griff. There seems to be a huge awakening. Now, some people believe that the elite of us, the elite of us, are really snakes, and that they're really trying to control the awakening. What do you all think of that? Do you think this is a legitimate awakening? Do you think they work for the deep state, the brotherhood, whatever name they go by? What do you all think?
Can you hear me, Mr. Jacoba?
Sounds great, brother.
Hey, I was been thinking about this as of late, as a matter of fact, dealing with these stars and these singers and individuals. The scripture in Revelations that says, "Come out of Babylon." What I've been thinking about is what I'm seeing, and I understand that people think that some of them are snakes and some of them are this. I don't think that they're all in that category, though. I think what's happening is they're starting to come out of Babylon. They're starting to see. I'm thinking that some of these, these NFL players and NBA players, there's going to be a boycott. There's going to be something going on where these people are starting to be affected because they're starting to say, "Wait a minute, now these could be my kids that's getting killed," and it's starting to hit home. When they saw George Floyd and they saw Brooks, this is really starting to hit home. So I'm thinking that some of them are starting to come out of Babylon. I say starting, I mean starting. To come out of Babylon, and as the scripture says, reward her as she has rewarded you. They're starting to see this American system. I don't care if you're a billionaire, a millionaire, if you black, it ain't rewarding you like it should be. And they can kill your kid and get off. So they're starting to see this. I really believe, I'll just say this and I'll be done. I really believe what's happening is some of them are starting to come out of Babylon, being that we're at the end of the 400 year, pour out his judgments. And we're seeing his judgments, and I think they're starting to see some of this. And I'll just finish with that.
Sister Sheila, any comment?
Yeah, I agree. I will say this. you know, the Lord said that, you know, in the land of our captivity, we would remember him. And I think that is what is beginning to happen. And I will say also that, you know, in my prayer for real, I'll be praying that our brothers and sisters wake up. So to me, it's like answered prayers. You know, I intercede on the behalf of my people. You know, I intercede, period. But, you know, one of my cries to the Most High is that, you know, he opened the hearts of his true people, that because some people don't even know they need him. They don't even know they're lost. So to hear and see people that, you know, they seem like they're waking up, to me, it's a glorious thing. So I'm going to believe that, you know, it's a true awakening, and I'm thankful and grateful to the Most High for it. So I'm going to say it's wonderful, and I really do hope in my heart that it is true.
Well, you know, I'm of the opinion as well that I think most of them are legit. I think most of them are awakening, and I don't think, you know, that they're you know, that they're infiltrators. I think, you know, everyone enters in at their own level of knowledge and understanding. Right. And I think, you know, they're like the babes, right? And they're like, what's this thing that's happening here? Because I'm seeing that we're the people, and they're being, you know, they're trying to take a side, I believe, right? I think they want to. Now, they're gonna have to make that decision whose side they're on. You know, do they want that big check? Do they want to be excommunicated? I hope they have enough of money, because if they do decide to step out, the ones who control Hollywood is not going to be too happy.
Right. And I think that's the problem.
Yep.
So what do you all think about the fact that I think one of the most interesting ones was Fantasia and her husband? You know, I can see, you know, Fantasia was always religious, let's say, right? Like most of us was. And I can see with her, I think there's probably more of a true awakening there. Maybe, let's say more advanced, let's say maybe. That's just my opinion. What do you all think?
I agree, because like you've noted and hit on the fact that like before I got awakened, I had been in the church. So I've been in the church for years, always been a believer. I can honestly say since I was a child, even though it was maybe, you know, childlike faith, I've always believed. So I think that her awakening is legit. And just like with me and others, I think it helped that she was a believer prior to her awakening, or prior to the awakening, if that makes sense.
Well, you know, I agree. And I think that's a like my brother and I always said a long time ago. We said when the born again Israelites start waking up, then the world's going to be in trouble. Right? Because now you got the people who are empowered by the Holy Spirit,
absolutely,
who are led by the Holy Spirit,
absolutely,
and that's dangerous.
Yes,
dangerous.
Yes,
and that's why people like Vocab Malone says the moderates are the most dangerous. Yes, we are the most dangerous. We don't go by moderates, but if you want to call us moderates, we'll take it, because you know what? We are dangerous because we walk through by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Hallelujah.
Right.
Now, the thing they don't understand is the more they fight, the more they give us credence, right? Because everyone's going to say, what are they talking about? What's going on?
Right.
Right. And so now they have to deal with the fact that the elite among us are waking up, right? So just think, if it wasn't of God, usually, you know, you have a handful, right? But this thing is continuing to grow. This isn't like, let's say, some Jehovah's Witness cult or something like that.
Right.
Because this thing is global, right?
Global, all over the world, worldwide.
All over the world. Yeah. And you have the people on the continent waking up, you have the diaspora waking up, and now is who we call the elite among us are now waking up. Now, the question is, what is going to be their role, right?
Yeah.
And will they decide to compromise for the dollar? Because you're going to, at some point, they're going to have to make a stand at some point. Now, the thing is about them is, like you said, Brother Hebrew Meek,
Yeah.
that their children are at risk as well, not just ours. It don't matter how much money you have or what car you ride up in. When them police pull you over or your children over, you're in as much danger as we are. And you know that they will get away with it just as they got away with it with some of the people who aren't famous.
And I don't want to interrupt you, my friend, but you remember that I don't remember what his name is. He's on Saturday Night Live. He just put out a video saying, and it shows, you see the video, the surveillance cameras captured it, where he was jogging. He's on Saturday Night Live. He's a black guy. He's with that white guy that's kind of crazy and was suicidal. But anyway, this black guy, his last name, I think it's Pharaoh or something like that. He was jogging, and the police came up on him thinking he was a criminal, and they made him get down. They put their knee on his neck. It's on the video. It's on the surveillance camera. Caught the whole thing, and he did a video about 2 days ago, and I guess he's pouring out his emotions about it, and he was talking about how no matter how much status he's got, even he had the knee put on his neck, and it was like 2 days before George Floyd it had happened to him, and so now he's out there. Now he's not saying nothing about being a Hebrew, but I'm just seeing these people. I'm thinking there's going to be some kind of boycott. I don't know when, but I something's gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree. There's something is gonna happen. Minister Taylor, you have anything to say about? Minister Taylor, you there?
Well, can you hear me? I was still having some connection issues.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Greetings, family. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, Ice Cube considered successful, compared to most people, and yet he's putting out there that we Israel. Something has changed. T.I. is doing it. I mean, the Holy Spirit is moving, and it is really amazing what we're seeing. I mean, the awakening is completely global. We're gonna see a lot more coming. That's for sure.
What's up, brother Karras? How's it going? Can you hear us?
Oh, hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh God.
So, family, one thing we want to do. Oh, I'm sorry. One thing we want to do is, if we're not talking, let's mute so that we can hear everybody. Go ahead, Karras.
Okay. So just to kind of put that in the perspective, just because of just my background of contacts, everybody sees this. So, or a microcosm.
Say, Karras, you're breaking up real bad.
Really not. This is a great thing, is because okay. How about now? Can you hear me?
Say something.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just come back to me, because I don't want to interrupt the show.
Okay. You want to try to reconnect?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do that.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks.
Brother Calvin Big, how's it going? We can't hear you, brother. You got to unmute yourself. Is right? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, brother Calvin. Hello? We can't hear you, brother.
I think he's muted.
No, he's not muted anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all. All right, so while he works that out, let's ask a question. Well, at least I have a question. What do you all think about the hangings that have been happening? You know, it's real interesting to me that you know, once again, right before it's time to leave Egypt, they're trying to kill the bruise. Anybody got a comment?
I was shocked, first of all, that was in California. North Carolina had been having those, every so often. But when it was California, I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? I didn't know quite how to take that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the FBI had did a study years ago that the police department was being infiltrated by KKK.
Oh yeah,
and to be able to, hang these brothers without having much resistance, tell me that they probably got picked up by police and was hung by police. That's my thought about it.
Well, from what I've seen too, I mean, the California police are one of the most hostile. The past few years, especially under the Obama administration, California was doing some dirt against our people. Surprisingly, given that Florida is known to be KKK capital, but I think they're all over the place. And our people don't hang themselves. We don't do that. And let alone, I know one of the guys, they're saying, how did he get up there? There's no evidence that he had a stool or something to support him. So obviously it wasn't suicide.
Well, I mean, I think we all know what's happening, right? There's the call went out for war against what they believe to be blacks, who they call African Americans, who the world is coming to find out is Israel. Brother Calvin, are you able to speak now? You can unmute your mic and let's see if it works now. Okay, say something. It's unmuted. Yeah, we still can't hear you. All right, so the thing is about all of this to me is, I saw that even Vocab Malone had to do a piece about Ice Cube showing that Israelite meme. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you surprised about? Did we not tell you this was going to happen? Did we not tell you there's nothing you can do to stop the awakening? Right. And so, UA is fighting a losing battle. They're tilting against windmills and they don't even know it because they're fighting against the Most High.
Right.
And, that's like I said before, I would not want to be in their shoes knowing that the Most High is moving and you're fighting against him.
Absolutely.
So what do they think is going to happen when the rest of the plagues come, right? Because this is just the beginning of the plagues. Mm-hmm. So they need to repent, right? They need to get on board and understand that these wars and rumors of wars that's happening at the time of the awakening of who they call the Negro, at the time of this mass killing of the Negroes, is the restoration of God's people. I mean, what's happening? You have two things happening within our community. And to me, the strongest is the awakening of the Israelites.
No doubt.
The second one is the turning to Kemet, right? And ancestor worship. Now, that's a big problem. So at the time of the Great Awakening is also the time of the falling away. Yep. Giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. And we have people out there because they feel that the white man had given us a slave Bible, right? That now all of the Bible is incorrect. That's the problem. See, that's the tricks of the devil. The devil will use your own book and hit you over the head with it. So then when you wake up, you're going to say, I don't want to have anything to do with that book. Now, that's how the devil works. So now all of a sudden, so now we got, people who were once quote unquote believers, now they're dealing with ancestor worship, and they're dealing with the third eye, and they're dealing with all this craziness. Right now, they don't understand that this isn't a physical battle. Right now, even when they talk about the third eye and stuff, and they're getting into spiritual stuff, they're not dealing with Christ. Right.
No.
So now what power are they dealing with? See, that's what happens when babies go touch fire, something that looks sparkly and good, they get burned. Right? Babies don't understand, you know, and then when babies don't listen, there's not much you can do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
oh, go ahead, Minister.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that those who are turning to Kemet, they just looking for a way to serve their carnal desires, right? They're looking for a way to not be accountable. So, you know, with the Kemet approach, you can do what you want, but yet call yourself a king, call yourself a god, right? You can, you know, convince people that they can be something without the Most High, right? So that's just that is textbook Satanism, right? So that you can be a god, you can be God, you can do this without him. And that's all they're doing. They're just trying to find a way to find spiritualism without accountability, without having to obey the laws, all of that.
Okay, let's try this again, Brother Calvin.
Okay, what about now? Can you hear me?
There we go, my brother. We got
it. Man, I never thought I'd see the day when I'd have to resort to using my cell phone over my actual laptop. But yeah, that's what it is. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate your patience, and it's good to be here with you guys today. I'm mainly just listening and taking in all the good information. And the only thing I'd really like to say is that what seems to be the most important in my mind right now is for guys like yourself, you, Yacoba, and Teo, and one or two other ministries that I listen to, is to just really keep standing strong on what you guys are teaching, because as we all know, there are a lot of different camps out there, if we can call it that, that's teaching all kinds of stuff. And, you know, people just need to hear the truth, and the only way they're gonna hear it is the people, the guys like yourself that's teaching the truth. Just have to keep on doing it. Keep on. Don't sway to the left or to the right. Just keep doing what you're doing, because that's what got me. I mean, you know, I've been saved. I gave my life to Yeshua HaMashiach. Oh God, 20 some odd years ago, but Amen. I was just awakened to the fact of who I am, my true identity as a Hebrew Israelite, about 3.5 years ago. So, and I'm kind of glad it worked out that way, because, you know, me having the Holy Spirit in me allowed me to discern truth from false. I just, the only part I don't understand is why I didn't see this years ago, but I guess God in his time, and he know what he's doing. Amen.
Amen.
So anyway, that's pretty much all I've got to say. I just want to, you know, just encourage you guys to just keep standing on truth, and knowing that the bottom line to it all, no matter whether you Hebrew, Gentile, what the bottom line is, Jesus Christ, him crucified, that we may live. So that's really the bottom line. But I do believe it's the secondly to that, us being the people, the true Hebrew Israelites, is definitely coming to second place on that.
So right now, what do you all think of, you know, the opposition against the awakening? Because it seems to me, and maybe I'm just simple and naive, it seems to me, after you see all of these events, all of these signs, all of these plagues, all these things that are happening, that, you know, our community has warned them about coming to pass, while we're also awakening as prophesied, you would think now they should be like doing an about face, which makes you think that maybe, you know, they knew all along, but just was on the enemy side. What's your thought on that?
The first thought that comes to me is Pharaoh, because when he saw all those miracles that the Most High was working, the Most High hardened his heart. I believe what's happening is the Most High is hardening their hearts on purpose, because they don't have a mind. I mean, look, it's not just that they're denying it. Then he ridicules the Hebrews I'm talking about as far as just us being people. I guess he's got videos out there that pretty much ridicules us as a race of people, a nation of people. His heart is being hardened, and not just his, but I mean, it's a lot of them. A lot of those individuals they're hearing the truth, but they don't have eyes so they can see. They don't have ears so they can hear. And so this is being done on purpose by the Most High, because it seems like every time there's a move of the Most High, there's a move of the devil to go along with it. Even in the book of Job, when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Most High, who came with them? He will always be around. And so that's pretty much what I really think is happening with that. But I want to go back to one other thing that you had said, because you got me thinking. Our people are caught up in the Kemet and so many different things, but then you got also Nation of Islam, and then you got even the camps who disagree amongst each other as far as what doctrine. So there's a lot of confusion when it comes to us as Hebrews as a whole, as a nation of people. There's a lot of confusion that we're tied up in. And I believe, I'll say this and I'll be done. In the book, I believe it's in Jeremiah or Ezekiel, I get it mixed up, but you know how the Most High said, when I bring you out this time, no longer will they be saying the Most High that brought you out of the land of Egypt. This is going to be so mighty that the whole world is going to know who he is and what this was all about. The glory is going to be so great in how he does this. And so I don't think he's going to wait until everybody quite get awakened, because I think many of us are praying to leave and to get back into the land of Israel. And I think for our sakes, well, really for his namesake, we're gonna be brought out. We're gonna be brought out. There's a lot of, like I said, they're blinded, but we're gonna be brought out. But yeah, Vocab, Malone, and all those guys, I really believe the Most High is hardened their hearts.
I agree with you, because otherwise it makes no sense whatsoever. Amen. So Live Like Well, yeah. Welcome aboard. How you doing? I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead, continue. What you were saying?
No, I was just agreeing with everything the brother just said about the hearts being hardened. I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. Live Like Well. How's it going? Unmute yourself.
People know I have technical difficulties. Salama, it's so nice to see you. I've been trying to talk to you guys forever and not the best at coordinating it. So thanks.
Salama, good to have you.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm really struggling with this with my conservative Jewish friends. It's really difficult. I got into a really heated discussion with one of them today. I don't even want to say one of them because she's a good friend of mine, but we're almost not friends now because she's really standing behind the police force. So anyway, so it's just at a certain point, I guess you have to give the word and then let it go. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, they're the privileged class, right? So they're not going to care about what happens to us so long as they're privileged. But the problem is, which they don't realize, is the trap that they created for us to fall in, they're going to fall in. And so when it start affecting their families, what are they going to do then?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not affecting them yet. They're not feeling the pain yet. And even with our own people, I have a family member who's very conservative Christian. And it's this, she sends me all the same stuff my conservative Jewish friends sends me. I have no idea how I'm involved with these people. But anyway, it's really nice to be on your show. So
yeah, don't you live in Canada or something? You live in Canada?
Yeah, I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, and in Canada. And Canadians are a little better than Americans, although I lived in America for a while, and I found that I experienced far less racism there than I did here. It's kind of the northern brand here, the northern flavor, over and obtuse. So it's hard to cap it, right? But yeah, so no, I'm Canadian, and a lot of the stuff is the same here. Nothing ends at the border. I always say this is Canaan, duh. It was all one nation when slavery started. So there's no difference. The border's artificial, and it's just they've separated Canada and America in the same way they did Upper and Lower Egypt. It's just, you know, two wings of the same bird, the dichotomy game all over again, you know, Hegelian dialectic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
But the incarceration rates are 800% of what they are for white men, 400% what they are for indigenous Native Americans. The indigenous Native Americans here claim this as their land, and if you want to get any funding from the government as an activist group, or if you're Black, you have to acknowledge that they were the first ones here, which is not true. And but that's another whole can of worms. But yeah, there is definitely conservatives here, and then there are liberals here, what we call liberals or Democrat. NDP is what we would call them. But generally, when there's conservatives there in America, there's a liberal here, and when there's a conservative here, or I guess Republicans,
yeah,
it's the reverse. And so they play all the games here that they're going to play there, and they play all the games there that they're going to play here, and they just switch the government. So Hegelian dialectic, two wings of the same bird. It's same, nothing's new under the sun. So
Sister Sheila, you have any comments?
Yeah, and it's a comment, and it's kind of like a question too, going back to what you were saying. You know, I feel like people's hearts, you know, sometimes I struggle with trying to understand if people are just innately wicked. Have they choose wickedness? You know, sometimes doing evil and wickedness to some people for whatever reason feels good to them. Because I don't understand people who are fighting this. I mean, you're fighting the Most High. You got to know you're losing this battle. I mean, you're not going to win this battle. So why are you continuously choosing this? So maybe that goes into, you know, I think that once that decision is made and the Most High knows our heart, that maybe then that's when the hearts become hardened, you know, because I don't understand anybody fighting anything against the Most High, but that's just me. I guess because I'm a softie, it's just easy for me to give in. It's like, I tried to fight. It's like, I can't fight against the Most High. Neither do I want to, you know, any longer in times in my life when I wasn't walking the straight and narrow, you know, it's a losing battle. So why are you fighting a losing battle? But then when I think about some of the books that I've read, and I've read some things about Esau and the Apocrypha books, you know, and it just seemed like Esau, after he lost his birthright, he was just, you know, hell bent on being wicked. You know, he just did things intentionally to be wicked. He just chose that side. So, you know, I don't know. It's just one of those things that I struggle with, because it's just like, why are you intentionally deciding to be wicked? Why is that something that feels good to you? Why do you like that? Why are you into that? You know, I don't get it. So I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
So family, everyone on the panel, you know, if you get to the point where you feel you don't have any more to say, just drop off, because I want to add more people to the panel. Okay.
May I say something?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So something I was considering was that, I mean, I was looking at Candace Owens and I was thinking, is she an Edomite? Like, why does she?
Candace is getting paid.
Seriously, like, is she an Edomite? I'm like, I'm serious. Like, I'm like, how could she think like that? Like, is she under MK Ultra mind control, or is she an Edomite?
Under $100,000 probably, you know, a session or whatever they call it. She's getting paid, and she married into that quote unquote royal British family. No, she's getting paid. Candace ain't dumb, and Candace once say she never experienced racism, and then find out that she filed a lawsuit for discrimination. Come on, she's getting paid.
I didn't know all that. Wow, that's interesting. And then I think with our people, I look at the conservative members of my family, and I see they've had so much wealth and been given such a blessed life, like, quote unquote, and they've suffered to attain that. So it's like right into the root and core of them to hold on to Babylon. That's what I see. And so, but you know, but some people also just need to, like my conservative family members didn't realize that this was Babylon until all of this stuff started happening, that we are in end times. So I think there's going to be, isn't there supposed to be a few waves of people? And, you know, I just thank you for all your videos, for everything that they revealed to me in scripture, especially about prophecy and stuff, because you really sent me down that road. And so, like, I remember watching your videos and you guys talking about these waves. And there's actually some prophecy around there possibly being those who are in the land. And then, you know, once the dragon spews out his flood in the land, when the people have already gone home, it says then he goes to make war with the remnant of the seed. So it's almost like maybe that's the next wave of people who either A, die and are persecuted as they die and they just can't wake up, or maybe they wake up and they do make a way of escape. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, one thing we can be sure of is that prophecy is being fulfilled, and most of the world don't realize it, right? And Brother Karras, any comment?
I look at it like this. You know, well,
We having difficulty hearing you.
okay. How about now?
Sounds better.
All right. So I look at it like this. Every time I have a conversation with folks that I know in the Middle East, they see what's happening. Now, it's emboldening them a little bit because they know what's going on, but because, you know, they're in more aggressive regimes, they really aren't able to talk out as much, but they see it. And so for that particular aspect, it's good to understand that they're looking. Now, in terms of them going to be able to agree and to be overt about their acceptance, you know, I'm not really too sure. So every day something's different. So this is the dynamics of everything.
So on your journeys to the Middle East, how many of them admitted to who we are? You know, because I know you've been to several countries.
So in Egypt, it just depends on who you're talking to in Egypt, because a lot of the folks will say, well, we did have Israelites, but they left Egypt after God had punished us here in Egypt, and they all went to the Red Sea, just like everything that the Bible had said. But then when we went into the wilderness, God got mad at us and killed us all in the wilderness. So that's why they don't believe, you know, there's Israelites, you know, in certain of their certain segments. When you go to Jordan or Saudi Arabia, they'll have different versions of, you know, the Israelites were here, you know, they were here for a time, but then they just disappeared. They went off the face of the earth, you know. But that all plays into Psalms 83. You know, it's that confederation. So now for them to say, well, we can't really outward acknowledge who you are, because here's the thing. We get support from that nation that's of Ashkenaz origin to continue the propaganda of being identity thieves. You see what I'm saying? So for them, it's harder for those nations to speak on out, because those nations will basically disappear them. Nobody wants to, you know, really say anything, especially for them. They're not going to see the residual value of, well, if we're the people, then you know kind of what happens. Yeah, your land is now just rocks and dirt, you know, but just think about what's going on with these unprecedented rainstorms. Just think about what's happening with the amount of instability that's occurring. because, you know, for them, earlier this year, back in April, you literally had the Middle East that was broke for about 1 or 2 weeks before they artificially hiked up the prices. But that volatility, that's something that they've never experienced, because you got to remember, for them, it's we've set the bargain, we set the price. Now who's going to come against us? And, you know, everything was riding fine until COVID hit. And once COVID hit, they understood, okay, something's going on here. And so even for me, getting that understanding, I never knew about the Arabian Peninsula turning green. And then once it turns green, that's the sign that God was going to bring his children back. You know, all these different things you don't really get a chance to understand. They're there, but they're not going to be broadcast. You know, just like with us. You know, we have the understanding, you know, and we will broadcast that understanding as much as we can. But for those that choose to believe it, you know, that's another situation. For them, since they're very since they have a lot of patronage structures, they will believe every single tale that's told from their grandfathers, their grandparents, moms, dads. You know, they're imams, and they will hold on to that. There's no analytical deductions or things of that nature. They will hold on to that as the truth. Now, what they understand is there are some truths that you share, and there are some truths that you keep internally. So that's where we're starting to see, you know, a lot of those internally kept secrets, you know, that secret is starting to break because of these external forces.
So how many of y'all look at the history of our people? I think it was Benya Israel did a video recently about King David. And, I like some of his stuff. One of the things that was interesting, it seems like that the Europeans had a big problem with the royal house of David, and that they were persecuting the royal house of David. And, you look at the excommunication from Spain and Portugal and all of that. And some of them were sent here to the Americas, you know, with the Spanish when they came. So our people is literally all over the place. And, you know, when you look at the historical documents, you know, because I always wondered, I say, well, how would people get to Spain? Right. And it's interesting that some of them say they were there since the time of Nebuchadnezzar. Right. So it's real interesting that how far back this thing goes. And it appears, too, that, you know, it's just my opinion. I can't prove anything, that many of us who went into slavery are probably of the royal house of David. And, because even like we did our DNA, and there's a Spanish thing in there in that line, of the DNA. And I think, it's interesting that, yes, they went after Judah, and I guess maybe Judah is all descendants of David anyway, right? Maybe that's how it is. I don't know. But what do y'all think of that? I mean, I just find it amazing that this, the more we find out about our past history, that, these people have been chasing us like forever.
I touched on that a bit in my 666 video, and on in some other videos on the Moors, because in Mauritania, people of Yah, was established around 11 or 1200 BC, which was at the time of Solomon's empire. And so it's believed that the seafaring, Zebulun and the 10 tribes were all the way out there and then shipping things up into to Europe, to Britain, to Spain. And so they had already established those areas. And there's a giant city that is, if you look on Google Maps, you can literally see the city of Mauritania is the biggest city that there ever was in history. Like, you can see it from like way up outer space, what you might call. And but anyway, the scattering went all the way from Egypt, then Carthage was part of the scattering, and Hannibal was part of the scattering of the 10 tribes. They moved all the way north, and then they started to go up into Spain. And then in 70 AD, then there was another scattering that headed west again. Sorry, did I? Yeah, and then down into Africa as well. And so it really happened from the time of the 10 tribes, and Israel was actually there during the time of Solomon. And that's why in Job, it talks about how he took that same path. He went on the ships of Tarshish, and he headed up in that same direction towards Spain and Britain, and then he was thrown away, because it's the same path that Israel ultimately takes in the scattering, because it's, as you know, you already know this, but it's like Job's, sorry, not Job. Did I say Job? I meant, what's his name? Jonah. Jonah is who I'm talking about. When Jonah went into the belly of the beast, it's like a type of everything that Yasharel, that Israel will go through. And so Israel had been there from the time of Solomon, and then they just kind of scattered all around the world after that. Like, that's my understanding. But if any of you, like, I really wanted to talk to you guys about the whole Africa thing, because if you look at, I did a video on it, like on the center of Israel being the land of Judah. And then also, I know you guys were exploring the whole question of all of Africa being the land. And when you see the size of this city in Mauritania, I mean, it is the biggest city that ever there was in all of history. Like, it's the only thing you can see from outer space. You can't see the pyramids. You can't see New York. You can't see anything but this one city in Mauritania. So, but anyway,
and you know what strikes me is that when you look at how big Israel is and how big apparently Israel was, you know, it makes you wonder about, you know, this current territory that we call Israel. How could they ever have fit, even if you include Arabia? And, you know, it's like, you know, I was doing some research about the Cape Verde Islands and the Lancados, and the Lancados are Jews too, you know, people of color, you know, black and all this stuff. I don't say people of color, but Negroes. And so I'm like, it's like all over Africa. And then there's this concentration also in East Africa, you know, where even according to Eldad the Danite, where our people was hanging out, right? And so it's like, okay, well, there's so many of us all over Africa. I mean, you know, is that just because of, you know, the Exodus of 70 AD, or is it because, hey, that's where we are, where we are from, right? Because, I mean, Israel is huge. Michaela, did you want to make a comment?
Well, this Minister Teo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wanted to say you can't forget the Exodus, right, from the Assyrian and Babylonian period, right? So Israel was always, you know, certain groups of Israelites were always fleeing, going into Africa, escaping persecution. That's what I suspect. The Shanti probably came with the Assyrian captivity, so they were there for a long time, which is why I suspect, you know, they still had some of the old ways, you know, that and you can tie, like I showed, where you can tie the name of God to Yami or Yahweh, and they kept that, whereas the other groups came in later, and as they interacted with the locals as well, their language evolved, you know. So I think it was a periodic trickling in to West Africa over thousands of years. That's what I see.
Okay.
I did a video.
Let's get some of our other guests in. Michaela,
yeah.
Michaela?
Yeah. So I was thinking about what you said a couple of weeks ago in regards to Africa being our land. And if you look at how Yemen is across from Djibouti, and that strip is the Red Sea, and at the bottom, it's only 21 miles in its most narrow place from Yemen to Djibouti. And in listening to you, you were saying how I don't know if you said Kenya, I think you said Kenya and Djibouti, they're really on top of each other. That if you look at the Negroland map, it spans all the way across the upper west portion And if I downloaded a couple of ancient maps, apps for maps, and I was able to scroll back 1000, 2000 BC and just start looking at the people groups that migrated into those areas. And it makes way more sense that that happened from Yemen side over versus the other way around. Like any way I plotted it, that's how it shows. And so it's been very interesting because there's such beautiful water and abundance and resources of all kinds that I can't really picture. And even when I do the same with where so-called Israel is right now, there's nothing. There's no there.
See that's my thing, right? When you look at that territory, there aren't, you know, fountains and rivers and, you know, all these things that the Bible described the promised land would look like. Even if you say it's under judgment, right? It looks like it never had it, right? So, you know, I agree. It just don't make sense to me.
And in looking at anything, even fiction things that I've read, the only way for that area where we're supposedly supposed to be from, the only way for that area to be fruitful is for some chemical makeup to be used as fertilizer. And we're supposed to be coming out of that kind of destruction of our soil. And it's also interesting that nobody, well, two or three groups of people maybe that we're told are fighting for that little piece of stuff up there, but the entire world is trying to steal Africa, and the entire world is trying to rape Africa while they conceal its greatness from everybody else and tell us that it's nothing and it's desolate, but everything is in Africa.
Exactly.
Everything started in Africa. And so it doesn't make any sense that if it started there, he knew the end from the beginning. Well, here we go back to the beginning from the end. And so it doesn't make sense that it's not that space.
And so, you know, one of the things, and I'll let Dion respond next. You know, I want to answer fire jaws. You know, I did a teaching on this, and, you know, the Red Sea, you know, you got to ask whether or not these guys manipulated the translations, because the Red Sea can mean the Reed Sea, right? Which points more towards the River Nile. Right. And so, you know, it's a possibility that, because we never get directions in the Bible. They don't tell you they went east, west, or whatever. They crossed the Red Sea. Right. That's how they translated it. But if they translated it as they crossed the Reed Sea, then they could have literally crossed because sea is Yam, and Yam can mean sea, it can mean river, whatever. Right. So they literally could have crossed the Nile and went into West Africa. Right.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to hear Rachel finish her point, because I think she was leading to something concerning Africa. Am I correct?
Okay.
I appreciate you. I do talk a lot. So, well, the thing I was looking at was, well, first of all, I wanted to co-sign on your Yami word, because there's the river that is near the Persian Gulf that crosses the middle of Africa and goes all the way through to Mecca is actually called Yami. So that was one thing I discovered. And then, but the other thing is, when you look at the Mercator map and you look at the maps of the center of the earth, what it does show is that there are 4 rivers that spring out from the center of the earth. And so when the land of Abraham is defined, it's defined as being between the Euphrates, the Great Euphrates, and the Great Nile. And so that Great Nile would be the Ethiopic Sea, what's called the Atlantic right now. So that would totally make sense that these are the 2 things that define the east and west of the continent of Africa. Africa is also called in South Africa the table. I prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. It's the only land that is basically like a shield. It's every other land in the world slopes outwards like a mountain, whereas Africa is built on a shelf and it's suspended above the ocean, which speaks to it being the land and not of the marine kingdom, the underwater kingdom. So those are the things that caused me to really question it. And also because Shem's portion of land is, as the eldest son, is double what his brother's portion of land is. So when you actually start to move Africa back into reverse Pangea, it ends up at the center of the earth, east of Eden, when you look at the Mercator map. And then south of it is South America. And so that's where you have the largest pyramids. I think you said this in your video. You guys had this. I'm not sure, though. Confirm if you can't. That that South and Central America, Brazil and stuff have the largest pyramids. And so that might make more sense that South America, Brazil, and so on was the land of Ham. And so when Abraham went south, he went down to Egypt. He went down south to there. But then I do go back to the land because the scripture does say that it will be a waste and a desolation. And when you look at southern Israel, when you look at Saudi Arabia, basically, it's called Qatar. It's called the wasteland, the quarter, the burnt offering. That's literally what it's called and what it means. And it's like something that's lit up in flames and burnt. And there's a lot of other things that confirm and define it as being the kingdom of Judah. Including, so I'm 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other on it.
Yeah, I looked up that word desolate, and I used to think it, meant, okay, like this wasteland, but it meant barren of people, void of people. So it, and then I think, is the scripture talking about all of Israel being desolate or just Jerusalem as well, right? So we should ask that. But if it's void of people, that doesn't mean the land is not green anymore. But if it's desolate, meaning a wasteland, I mean, the area that they're in, I mean, that looks, that Arabic territory. It's hard for me to believe that land is going to come back to providing for the people of Israel when we go back, But the Most High can do anything he wants. I can't say he wouldn't.
So can we get Dion on? You have any comments, Dion? If not, that's fine too. Just want to give everybody a chance to participate. All righty then.
Hello, I'm sorry. Did you say Dion?
Dion, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. I'm just listening right now. I got a lot going on, so I'm just trying to just listen and just learn.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bump you out so I can let someone else in. Okay.
Okay, but I can still hear.
Yeah. You can go to the YouTube channel too if you just want to listen. Right? You don't have to be in here. You can go to the YouTube channel.
Okay. All right. So that's what I'll do.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Taylor, this is Harris. If I can kind of interject on that one, just because I've put my feet in those locations of desolation.
Yeah.
So, believe it or not, the Ruber is the translation of the empty quarter.
You breaking up again, Karis.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me?
You sound better.
All right. So that's called the empty quarter. And the empty quarter is actually the largest consecutive desert, one of the largest consecutive deserts in the Middle East. Obviously the other one is going to be the Saharan, which is the largest in the world. But what makes that desert so interesting is that desert is humid. And I mean, it's like South Florida humidity in the middle of the desert.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the strangest phenomenons I've ever seen, where you would see like desert cloud just made out of sand because of the finite particles being captured in the water models was literally making sand clouds, But what that shows that, do we have that technology to harness that humidity and the moisture? And the funny thing is, we actually do have that technology. That technology is by Moses West. And so, the thing is that we don't have limited imaginations, unlike our colleagues that we'll work with. We have our imaginations and we let them roam through, and because we're creative people. That's just the bottom line. So I would argue that maybe, just maybe, once we get back and occupy the land, because the land is still, according to what the Most High had promised from Abraham, it was going to be from the Euphrates over to the Nile. And that is a very good amount of land. I think I did the dimensions, and just from, I believe, just the farthest point that I was looking at from the Nile, and I know that everybody's dimensions will vary, but from the very tip of like Mozambique, which you're getting towards South Africa, but those very basins of the Nile over towards the very tops of the Euphrates towards Turkey in that area, that spans like almost 6,000 miles.
So let me ask you a question, because one of the issues I have is I'm not convinced that some of these landmarks are legitimate, right? Because some of the books that I've read, they refer to, I'm not sure if it was the Niger River. I think it might have been the Niger River. They referred to as Ethiopia, and I mean, not Ethiopia, I'm sorry, the Euphrates. It was called Euphrates, and they said it was the Euphrates. This was inside of what we call Africa today, right? These are some of the older, books written by the white authors. So how do we know that the landmarks are accurate? Because they got it's just confusing at this point when you're telling me that it was called Euphrates or Euphrates, and so we're using this other river that they told us was Euphrates, and now that can throw us off even more, right? That's just my opinion. I mean, what anybody have a comment on that?
I do. I think that everything that they do is backwards, and that's what we pretty much can see. Anything that they told us is white is actually black, and anything else in between. And so all the way down to when Yahushua in the Old Testament was dividing up the land and Moses was dividing up the land, I think of it as the area that I was saying, Yemen and that whole side. It's really not divided. It was a man-made canal that was placed to separate the lands. But one part of them wanted to stay in Gilead and in that area and not cross over. And they built a giant altar to connect and remind that these two that stayed over here are the half tribe, and the tribe of Reuben that stayed on one side is still connected. And where they say it's Egypt, as you cross over this West Canal, that whole area, that to me is the portion that maybe, okay, that it's the exact opposite. Instead of them coming out one way, whatever way they said we exited, whatever way like ASV maps describes us heading one direction, I feel like no, it's most likely the opposite direction, because why would Yahuwah take us from grander into skinny and small? And so it's hard for me to rationalize that out.
I agree. I mean, think about it, right? Because we're supposed to be in a promised land where we lack nothing, right? Which would be gold, silver, all of the minerals, right? Which is all in Africa. The rivers, the fountains, and multiple rivers and streams. I'm like, really? I mean, I'm sorry, the area we call Arabia, the area we call Israel, just doesn't fit it, not even close. Mm-hmm. And so I know someone posted, we should watch Ron Wyatt's. Now, many people state that Ron Wyatt was a con man, and that wasn't legitimate what he found in quote unquote the Red Sea. And the more I look at the evidence, I'm not convinced that Ron Wyatt was legit either. And be honest with you, I'm willing to look at everything with a second look, because I'm gonna tell you, I was one of the people who was against the idea that that maybe Jerusalem was in Africa, that was our area because of the whole Red Sea thing. And when I started studying the scriptures, because I know how they manipulate it, right? How they'll say things like, they'll use Greek, and it's the same word for Gentile. Well, why you use Greek? Why didn't you use the word Gentile? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I understand they have different authors who translate it, but still, I mean, Greek, it's two different words, right? Mm-hmm. And so, sometimes I'm like, we need to look at everything again, and look at the Bible and say, okay, what exactly does the scriptures say? You know, can we get Mr. and Mrs. Barnes to comment? Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Barnes. Okay, we're gonna move on. So let's go back to the main topic. So when it comes to the idea of the awakening of our people, what do you all think about this? You know, the first question we had in the beginning of the show, is it a move of God or not? You know, anybody?
I think that, yes. And I say that because if you listen to when people wake up, they wake up one of two ways. They wake up more heathenish and just forget the white people, we're going to own you, etc. Or even people who didn't grow up in church, they'll wake up thinking about, wow, we have to return to the covenant. We have to be holy. We have to honor what Yahuwah has said. Their whole focus is on submitting to something that they haven't been submitting to. Their whole focus is on submission to the Most High. And even in the videos that you showed, not any of them were really saying, oh, we're going to be on top. That's okay. Look out. Look at us. It was, no, all of these are happening. All of this stuff is happening. I'm at my breaking point. I've noticed something. This is what I've been seeing. And I think that this whole shut-in time with the C-19 business has been Yahuwah's hand, because it has allowed for people who would never sit down and be quiet to think or to hear. They have no choice but to sit down and be quiet and to think and to hear. A lot of their idols, literally idols, people have been taken off the earth. And so they don't even have that made them very human to themselves, because this person, Kobe, for example, wasn't doing, he was going to a game with his daughter. But he was an idol to them, and for them to see their idol literally fall. And
now,
then
that's something I really find interesting, is that the Most High put the whole world on a Sabbath rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had to stop. Everybody had to, figure out what's going on here. And now everybody gets a chance to listen, because with all of the hustle and bustle and stuff, nobody was listening. Right. So now, and maybe that's why, too, we have so many famous people coming out and saying, hey, we're Israel. Now maybe because they just found out they're not as scripturally sound yet.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe what's happening is that they're God is going to use them. Now, I think sometimes, like the rich young ruler, God going to tell you, leave everything behind and follow me. And some of them are going to say no. Right. And, because really you're going to know the man and his commitment to God by what he does with his money. Right. So they might be put through that test. Right. Because as the rich young ruler, he had much wealth. And so he wasn't going to give that up and go follow God. Right. So I find it interesting. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I think that a lot of them, their reputation is their biggest thing, because we imagine them having a lot of money. So, I think Carmelo has more money than not, but at the same time, they see how even with all your money, you're still nothing to them. And they see it on a level that we know but don't see, because they're literally commodities more so than any of us. Like, they are actually physically commodities. And with Kaepernick, with all of the stuff, they see how you are nothing but a product. You don't get to speak, because products don't talk unless you're a Chucky doll. And so that has been the way it's been. But now that everything's on shutdown, they also realize, wow, life is more than my basketball. My life is more than me making another hit, whatever. And they have gotten a chance to focus in on, when all of this stuff goes away, what is it about? Because these people don't care about us. And
that's the thing. I think all of us realizing that if you wealthy or middle class or whatever, it doesn't matter. They'll kill you and your children in an instant, right? Mm-hmm. They have no love for us. That's why, when I forgot which teaching it was. about them being our enemy. Now, some people want to, look at it as, tail being racist. No, 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 no. It is no different than the Amorites and the Hittites and Perizzites, right? They were our enemies. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't individual good people, right? Like Ruth, right? Ruth was a Moabite, and I believe she was a Moabite, right?
Yeah.
and she was a good person amongst Israel's enemies. So you do have good people inside of that when that whole nation can still be your enemy.
Right. And I think that the whole Black Lives Matter, everybody loves us kind of thing is, well, first of all, you can't even do a switcheroo like that on the playground as a kid without saying sorry, without giving back my stuff. Like, you can't just, oh, I took everything, I beat you up every day. You know what? I'm going to tell you sorry over in the corner by the lockers, and then I'll walk with you to class so people think we're cool. But then you still hate me and you're just waiting. So it's silly. It's silly, and it's really petty and trite, this sudden supposed turnaround. And I think it's to, again, winnow out people, because it's easy for us to, after being mistreated for so long, to take crumbs and, oh yes, okay, people are waving at me, they're smiling, it's nice, to not be hated, or for them to feel at least some kind of way, saying out loud the stuff they wouldn't think about before. But it's a lull to keep certain people attached to Babylon. And so I don't trust it. I think, stay vigilant, wave back, but keep it moving. And I think that it's right now there. I think the niceties will continue, but it's all fake. It's fake.
I agree with you. I'm not buying it. I agree. It is fake. And I believe all of this support for us is a trap for us, that at some point they're all going to try to turn on us. But as the scripture said, they're going to look for our guilt, but not find it. Rachel, you have any comment?
Yeah, I was going to say, I already actually have talked to Black Lives Matter people here in Vancouver, because it's a big movement in Canada, and they are LGBTQ. There's so much evidence of that. And it's just very clear that the elites want to try to control the argument, and they want to try to control the voice. What I'm concerned about is that they are setting, and I also want to talk about celebrities, because my brother-in-law was a very famous basketball player, and I work in the film industry with a lot of stars. But back to the whole thing of BLM, they are definitely trying to steer things in a particular direction, like the taking down of the statues. They're speeding the plow. They're erecting them in
can we mute ourselves if we're not talking?
It's like they're trying to steer the direction of everybody. And the concern I have with the celebrities is that it does come back to the question kind of Africa, because the land, because if indeed it is everything, in fact, east of the Nile, I'm concerned that there could be an agenda to just send us into a state of terror and then push everyone to just run back to anywhere in Africa. And that can come through the celebrities, because they really landed in Ghana and spent a lot of money and publicized that whole year of return a lot. Like, they were right in it, to the point where the people organizing it were shocked by it. And so there is kind of a steering working through them. And they are very sold. I've worked with a lot of them on set, and they are sold. Like they sell their souls to the devil. They become puppets. And it's not something they can get out of. I don't know what the contracts are. So I'm really suspicious whenever they get behind anything. I'm like, well, if they're getting behind it, then I need to go in a different direction. So I would really, really question that. And it, like I said, it goes back to the land, because Qatar does mean burnt offering. And that's what that whole desert is called. It's also called Dinah. When you look at the land that is currently, Arabia and all of that, it is, when you look at the head of Africa, it's literally the frontal lobe. It is the control center of the head. It is the brain. It is the conscious mind. And when it's separated, as it was with these canals and stuff, then the horn takes shape. And so that's fallen Israel. Whereas when that frontal lobe is reconnected, it's the whole head and it's complete. So that's why I'm still up in the air about that question. And I think it might be a sign if the celebrities, if we get into a crisis stage in things, and it's like, because literally all of the African nations are setting up a debate right now with the UN to debate and talk about how America's persecuting their people. And so that may mean that everybody is going to have the entire diaspora come back to the land. And so that's when the land question becomes really important. So it's like everybody has to watch out for these manipulations. And if a celebrity is involved, anyways.
So maybe the celebrities are there to redefine the movement, right? Like, I'm of the opinion, and some people don't like tail for it, but that many of the camps are meant to
COINTELPRO.
Yeah, COINTELPRO. And even if you look at some of their the ceremonies that they have, some of it look Masonic. And so the enemy is shrewd, and they would try to redefine us, right? That's why I believe that when it comes to getting to the New Testament, right, some of them avoiding the New Testament, and some of them are outright rejecting Christ. And so that could be what they're trying to do, right? Say, hey, we're Israelites too, and then start redefining the whole ministry side of it.
I think that anything that somebody comes into new, and that's what I meant earlier when I said about listening to their sound. The people who I believe are truly awake are the people who come in ready to submit to the order, to Yahusha, and the people who are in this for self, they come, or to redefine, or because they're puppets, they come in with an agenda. They come in to something that is without question the oldest thing. And they come in with this, well, I'm going to run this. They come in like Kanye and want to be on people's stage, and it's like, no, you come in like a child, and you submit to the order. You submit and pass under the rod and wait for your assignment, pray for your assignment. Don't come in with your agenda, because the Most High already has his stuff in order, and he's just waiting for us to come to him and listen. And so the celebrity portion, I think that anything that we have historically seen, anytime infiltration happens, your enemy tells you what is really, really true, because they come in and they try to become a part of it, and they want to water down your coffee and make it not hot and black coffee. And so that's what I'm looking at, that because that's the thing that's giving it the most credibility, is that they're afraid that we really, really know who we are, and they know what that means for them. Dave Chappelle, I don't subscribe to. I think that what I saw of his the other day was the first time I'd watched him in a long time. But what he said was the truth. He began telling the people, this is the wrath of God, and it's not because of George Floyd. It's because of everything that has happened, and your time is up. I've stuff like that to me is when I'm getting out of the way. I don't want it to be about me. This is about what he's doing. And he clearly was sprinkling it with profanity, but it was legit. It was the truth. And so I think that the ones who are looking to make this a publicity campaign are the ones that, yes, we need to not look at them. But the other ones, I believe the Most High is going to shock people who are too churchy, even who are awoke, but still too churchy. He's going to shock them by using people who, oh my gosh, they're the ones who came in at the last hour, and they're going to get the same payment that those of us who came in earlier are going to get. And that's going to shake the heart of the people who are awake, but maybe still stingy with the blessings of Yahuwah. And so those are the ones that are those are the celebrities that I'm looking forward to seeing come in.
Mr. and Mrs. Barnes, can you speak? Because I saw that you was trying to speak and we can't hear you. Because we're not hearing anything right now, and I don't see it muted. Okay, so one of the things I think is that just as the Catholic Church usurped Christianity, right, and guided it towards paganism, some of these quote unquote elite are probably doing the same thing, right? They're coming in as, oh, I'm an Israelite too. And because they have a platform, they're going to try to redirect the worship from Christ to something else, right? They're going to try to move it to an ethnicity as opposed to serving the Most High. And that's how the enemy does. If he can't stop it, he's going to usurp it, right? And they can't stop this awakening. Look how it keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. And they don't know what to do. Look at Vocab Malone. He don't know what to do, right? Look at all of these UA apologists. They don't know what to do other than try to make us all like the camps. And because they can't throw us in the same bucket with the camps, right, then they just try to focus on the bad side. Like when they try to paint all Israelites as murderers because then people went into that place, killed those Jewish people in New York, Vocab and them try to paint us all that way, right? And that's what they do, right? And I'm not surprised that you're going to have elites awakening. The question is, what are they going to do next? And where are they going to put their money? Because a person where they are, where they put their dollars, right? Because people don't play with their money.
I gotta say, I don't entirely agree with. I only watched part of the video from. Sorry, I just ate some sugar. Who we were just talking about? The comedian. I watched part of
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, Chappelle. I don't know that I entirely agree that he was completely honest and on board in his portrayal. I didn't listen to all the way to him talking about, this is the judgment of Yah and all that kind of stuff, because I just felt that there was something off about what he was saying, but I would have to watch it again. But thanks for relating that, because it makes me curious to watch it again. But I'm not sure that he's not also being used to a certain degree.
I think with him, like, again, I don't know them, so I don't want to defend or not defend him.
Yeah.
But yeah. I came at it. I'm hesitant to watch anything. I don't really have cable. I had to be told that it was out, and so I listened to it, having not been dipped into the chaos of already what's going on, and having Black men in my family growing up around all brothers and my dad and everything. It's like I could hear my brother speaking through his mouth, only without the profanity because he doesn't sound like that. But with his emotion and his intent, he drew paths to show how and this is where I mean he's not awake as far as how he sounded. He's a Black man in America is what he is. And so what he was saying was he trusts that the streets are going to take care of it. And no, I don't think rioting is the answer. I don't think whatever these paid people are out here doing is the right thing. But what he was saying is nobody's going home after having seen what they saw. Like the people who are honestly angry are not going to just stop talking. Nobody's going to just trust the system to handle itself. That's what he was saying, that basically if America doesn't get it together, there's going to be no peace. He said this was the last chance for civil discourse. That's how he ended it. This was the last chance for civil discourse, and it's just going to pop off after that.
Well,
I just wanted to say two things, right? Like y'all said about Dave Chappelle and how he, like the other lady said, and he said some things, how this is the wrath of God. With like the young lady Kimberly Jones who spoke out the other day, and she said a lot of powerful things. Although she used some profanity, I think her analogy on the history of us being here was so on point, and it kind of put me in the mind of what Dave Chappelle said. And also speaking about this, the last chance for America to get this right. Is it just me, or do y'all feel the same way? Like, are Black people embracing? Because I feel like I'm embracing for it being inedible. Like, we know they're not going to get this right. We know a lot of justice that we see going on is not going to be passed down. And I think all chaos is going to break out eventually in America. Like
I pray for it to be swift.
Like this is it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how I feel like we embracing. Yeah, like we just embracing for what we know is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it says Babylon can't be healed, so it's just
Right.
over.
Exactly.
That's it. But what I did
And
want
like,
to say is, oh, sorry, go ahead, sir.
and I just wanted to say, like you said, Babylon can be healed. I done mentioned this over the last couple of years. I just mentioned it to my wife yesterday. What's gonna heal Babylon? Making right. What they always say, the first sins of America, slavery. The Bible said you can't work a man without paying him his day's wages. It'll come up before God as sin. You can't spill innocent blood in your land. It's going it curses your land is cursed. You know, and so the Bible said Babylon cannot be healed. She could have been healed. We could have healed her, but she is not. So let every man go to his own country. It's going up. The sins of Babylon is going up, even unto the sky. I think the healing is what I feel like the healing is reparations and you know, and making atonement for all the things that they have done, but we know they're not gonna do it. We know they're not gonna do it. So, like you said, Babylon can't be healed. But we could have healed it through the making right of all their wrongs through reparations.
But you know why they're not gonna be healed? Because they don't really want to change anything, right?
Exactly.
Because they know that we got next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So when it comes to the killings and stuff, maybe they want that to change, but they don't want white supremacy to disappear, right? And I'm talking about those who have some level of compassion, because really, as I stated in my right-wing evangelical teaching, you know, those people, they want war. You know, they could call themselves Christians all day long. I don't see no fruit.
Right. I think that
I agree.
that even people who, you know, even the unredeemed souls right now that are Israel, and Dave again, and the ones that we watched at the beginning of the show, they are saying the same things. They are saying basically they're not going to change. And I feel like Yah has allowed for us to have to be home and forced to see and hear in abundance. If we are not praying to him, that's all. That's the only other thing you have is all the stuff that they're shoving in your face on YouTube, on anything, you know, on any media outlet. This is what you have. And to see in just rapid succession, more and more and more of our lives being taken, more and more of the injustices happening, things reverting back to times when my parents and grandparents were in school, lynchings and actual lynchings. I don't know what Candace is talking about. Lynchings have not gone away, you know, and that's interesting. And I don't want to belittle any of it by saying interesting, but it's interesting at how all of these things are happening simultaneously. And that's what makes it real, is that it's all in succession at the same time, coupled with all of the stuff in the atmosphere, the weather, the tension that's building just in the weather alone is fascinating. And
so I have a question.
That's all second Baruch.
Yeah, I have a question, and probably Rachel, you probably might be able to answer this. Okay, according to the Ethiopian calendar, it is 2012, right? And we know, according to the Mayan calendar, you know, the world's supposed to end or whatever else, or the end of the age, right? As the scripture says, you know, and we have these two, I think, blood moons coming or something like that, or some kind of in June or July. What's your thoughts on that?
You know, honestly, I am not, I just looked at the Enochian scriptures and a ton of videos on the Enochian calendar. And that's how I came up with my calendar. My understanding, and looking at the Gregorian calendar, my understanding is that this calendar is actually, the Enochian calendar is actually ahead, because it's 364 days rather than 365. And so there was it was a year and a half ahead. And so that's maybe why there were those planetary alignments you were talking about yesterday, you know, with the woman clothed with the sun and all of that kind of stuff. Because that was 7 months before the Passover of the Enochian calendar. So, you know, 7 is one of those divine gematria numbers that then pointed to the spiritual awakening. So, but I've never heard that this is 2012 according to that calendar.
Yeah, because I think they're on the Julian. I think they're on the Julian calendar, and that's what I think it is, because it looks like it's the same. So right now it is 2012, and supposedly their year ends, I believe, is September 1st. I
That's
believe
interesting.
that. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Karis, you had something you wanted to say? Karis?
Yeah. In terms of the calendar dates, I honestly put everything into perspective. Like, for me, what I'm more interested in is really how the moon, these new moons, and how these new moons start to, you start to understand that as these things were going on, I think especially we had that fast in the new moon of May, around that super, before the super pink moon or whatever that was. But right after we had that fast on that new moon, we saw the whole thing with George Floyd going on, and that was a spiritual eruption right there. Now, I'm a little bit more excited in terms of what's going to happen next week, because if we're seeing the same things play on out, because we know that the Most High is moving, that's where I think in terms of the calendars and things of that nature, those will all become kind of hidden points as we're starting to see a lot more things on the forefront.
So, family, we're going to have to start shutting down. We're at the end. Anyone got any final comments?
I did want to say something about the people in Africa, like this, returning to this whole ancestor worship and Kemet thing. We hear a lot of that on the coming from a lot of the Africans, and I think it's a real point of concern, because I'm seeing more and more the whole "we are Egypt, we are Kemet" thing, and there seems to be an awakening going on in Africa, but even people like Joshua Mapanga or Dr. Mumbi, they're always returning to this Kemet kind of thing. And I don't know if they are celebrities in their own right. It's just kind of, in terms of the awakening or the return, I just think it's something to kind of keep an eye on. That's all I want to say. Thanks for letting me.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just said thanks for letting me come on. That was it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey, Tia, I have something I want to ask you. I've been wanting to ask you for a long time. You did a video back around last June. The video that you did that had Alex Jones in it, that you did not about a year or so ago. Right before that, I don't know if you remember, Donald Trump was live and they was talking, and they was having a G7 summit or whatnot. And I remember him mentioning that they need to allow Russia back into it, because Russia's supposed to be a part of the meetings. Now, we know that Russia was suspended back in like 2014. So technically Russia is not through out of the G7, which it should be a G8. And I know in Revelation it mentioned the king, a king that belonged to the seven. So it should be, I guess, technically 8 kings even in the Bible. And when Donald Trump said that, I thought it was very prophetic, and I do believe that Russia has been very quiet, but I do believe that they are the 8th king that the Revelation speak of, the beast that go into perdition, I guess. What do you think about that, Tia? I've been wanting to ask you for a long time.
So I agree. I looked at that with, you got the 7 heads, and which is, in my opinion, is probably the G7 nations. And then you have even he is the 8th, right? We had that scripture that came out.
Yes.
Even he is the 8th. And Russia is the 8th of the membership of the G7 nations. But then Russia got kicked out of that grouping. So now it's back to G7. And so, I believe some kind of way all of that fits together, because, the G7 is, in my opinion, the 7 heads on the beast, because we know the beast is a global nation, and that beast system is controlled right now by the whore, who's America. America has basically every continent in the world, right? So she fits all of the descriptions of Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. And so I think that Russia probably is the 8th member. And, when it comes to end time prophecy, Teo's position on that is a little different than everyone else, because, they see these last 7 years and stuff as the time of great tribulation and the rise of the Antichrist. That's not what we see, right? We see that the second Exodus is next, that Babylon is going to be destroyed, that the 10 horns, they're going to betray America, which we believe to be the European
The EU.
allies.
Yes.
And that we can sort of see those things lining up, because even France trying to help form a European army. So I mean, right now, in our opinion, yes, I agree with you. I think the G7 and I think the G8 is probably Russia, from what I can tell. And the final world system will be run by the 10 nations until they give their power over to the Antichrist. So, as I did in my teachings about the 2 kingdoms, there's
Yes, I love that one.
Yeah, there's going to be us, who are Israel, and then the 10 horn kingdoms, which is going to come after the fall of America. And so it looks like most of that power structure is going to go to Eastern Europe, right? Gog of Magog. That's where that new power structure is going to be. You're still going to have a few Western nations, but that power structure is going to change.
Well, I sure appreciate you, T.I. Thank you so much. Look to having more dialogue with you. Thank you.
Okay. So I'd like to thank you all for being on. It's great talking to everyone. And we'll do it again. So peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending.